Food delivery has swelled to a more than $10 billion a year industry in America. And it's partly due to ordering apps such as DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, and many others. This year, for the first time, restaurants are projected to make more money from food consumed outside their doors than inside. But behind the seemingly overnight success of these apps is a more than two-decade effort to change the way we get food. Brook Silva-Braga is here with the origin story. Brook, good morning.
Good morning, guys. These apps facilitate deliveries from high-end venues to chain restaurants like McDonald's down to your local diner. Grubhub, which helped launch the industry, now says it processes 500,000 orders every day, a remarkable leap from its very modest start. How many people do you now have in this building?
Oh, we have probably 1,000. We have like 8 floors.
For Grubhub founder Matt Maloney, the road to success started with long walks through the streets of Chicago.
Just like this restaurant, Lotus Banh Mi, would come up and I'd go in and get the menu. And
Okay, go for it, yeah. In a way, this is what transformed the restaurant industry. Matt and his friends grabbing menus.
Generally, it's the paper ones, not these nice laminated ones, but I'd take this and I'd stick it in my pocket and run to the next one.
So you get all the menus, and then you're just sitting in front of a computer creating a list that we now take for granted.
Yeah, like a whole new database of all the restaurants that no one had aggregated before.
Grubhub.com, at least a version of it for part of Chicago, went live way back in 2004, the same year Facebook launched.
It was like a repository for menus that delivered to you that was dynamic based on where you were.
Grubhub wasn't delivering the food, that was up to the restaurants. What they did was gin up business by making it easy for diners to order.
We're able to go to restaurants and say, for every $1 of your food that I sell, I'm going to keep 10 cents.
The idea for online food delivery actually dates back to 1999, when a company called Seamless Web began delivering to law firms in New York. They eventually merged with Grubhub. But the concept caught on pretty slowly, as Maloney himself conceded as recently as 2012.
I mean, if you walk down the street here and said, what's Grubhub? Like, no one would know.
Yeah, so it was a lot harder pitch back then.
Patty Barrett was hired to help sell restaurants on the idea in 2011. Sure, it's exciting. First job, you call your parents, and you say, I'm working for this thing called Grubhub, and they say what?
They thought I said Groupon. So it was my first selling experience, I guess you can say.
You're selling your parents.
Selling my
Don't
parents
worry.
on the job, yeah. It's really simple, so you
But then something changed.
You pick the menu items that you want to order from.
Maybe it was the rise of the smartphone. Renee. And online ordering mushroomed.
Spicy lamb meatball sandwich.
By 2014, Grubhub had gone public. Today, it's worth $4.5 billion. But it's battling for business with new competitors with big investors behind them, including Uber Eats, Postmates, and biggest of them all, DoorDash, which is valued at more than $12 billion. You've got 3 of these things.
Yes.
All different apps.
All different apps.
White Maze in Brooklyn, New York uses almost all the apps to sell their Venezuelan arepas and rice bowls. Kathy Valera bought the restaurant in 2018. You seem pretty busy, people walking in. Why even bother being on these apps?
Because when I got the restaurant like a year and a half ago, it wasn't that busy.
The restaurant was making barely $100 a day. Then she signed up with Grubhub.
And first day it was like $300. Second day it was like $400. Third day like $500. I was like, oh my God, no, this is amazing, you know? Today is $3,000. So that's why I'm like in love with all the type of apps that we have.
But all those orders are not free. What do you pay for Grubhub?
20%.
A lot of restaurants complain that commission is too high. They provide the food, you make the match. Is that worth 20% of what I pay for a meal?
So we don't actually define our prices. We define a minimum. In most places, it's 10% to receive orders on Grubhub.
So they're choosing to pay that, is your point?
The restaurant's competition are choosing to bid up that average price for typical exposure.
The best exposure on the app costs more, up to 30% for some restaurants. And the importance of that exposure has become evident even to places like the Family Corner Diner in Queens, New York, a neighborhood institution for more than 30 years.
Nobody wants to pick up a phone anymore.
Owner George Cavadias says Grubhub deliveries now make up about 20% of his business. Do you feel like you need to do this? Is this a good to have or a must have?
I think in the restaurant business, it's a must-have. It's difficult to not deal with these people, with this type of business, because you need it.
That's in part because Grubhub is so good at something called search engine optimization. I just Googled Family Corner Astoria. When you search for Family Corner, the top results take you to Grubhub or Seamless's page for the restaurant. Is this your phone number that they're showing me?
No.
And if you call the number on that page,
Press 1 to place an order.
it gets to George
There it is.
only after it's routed through Grubhub.
And we hear the phone ringing.
What not everyone realizes is that Grubhub charges for that too.
Thank you.
If they call up, place an order, then you get hit with a fee, correct? But if I call the Seamless number,
It comes directly to me. It's still a phone call.
most restaurants are paying a fee for these calls.
Not that I know of.
After looking at his statement, George told us he is paying those fees and he will stick with Grubhub.
Picking up these menus.
In a way, Maloney walking into all those restaurants helped usher in a world where people are less likely to walk into restaurants.
They're not walking down the street. They're not going to the phone book and looking for their local restaurants. They're going on a digital platform to find out who delivers for them.
The relationship between humans and their local restaurants are changing and has been changing really ever since we started this business.
One interesting direction this could be heading is what's called cloud kitchens. These are basically restaurants that only deliver. There's not even a storefront to walk into. Travis Kalanick, the founder of Uber, is one of the big investors in this idea.
Yeah, my son uses this app, or all three of those apps, like nobody's business. It just doesn't seem fair, though, that they get that much out of the business through the cut.
And it's not just with restaurants. Right now we're seeing pushback to something called ClassPass, which does this for fitness studios. When an app comes in and gets involved in real-world business, it can change a whole business model.
I know when we did a story on some of these apps and restaurants scaling some of their menus for it, the one thing they did say is they don't have to pay benefits to a delivery driver. They don't have to worry about some of the other things that go with it. So when you look at that cut, while it's very high because you're getting it from every restaurant, for some businesses, there's that reason that they want to also. Thanks, Brooke.
See you.